There's no real longevity in that. But yeah, so the client value that we fulfill is much deeper, and again, that's also moved with our transition away from being a private client dominated revenue model to one of much more the SME and the business clients.
Welcome back, guys. Today we're joined by Paul Plewman and his young friend Bertie. Paul's works for Currency Transfer. He's someone we've worked with in the past, so thanks for coming along, Paul. If you could just introduce yourself and your experience, please.
Thanks very much for having me. Probably better known as FX Plew. I'm actually Paul Plewman, and I've been in the industry for a long time now. Started way back in 2004, 2005 for a quaint little brokerage called Roosh International. It was kind of a big deal. They got bought by Travelex, and I survived that acquisition and I was given their private client desk to run for a while.
Is that your first taste of management, private client side?
Yeah, I mean, I was a senior in the sales team, so I had a few reports, but I wasn't motivated by their performance. It was more just mentoring. Private clients at Travelex, I was responsible for the team day to day. I reported into Richard Kirk, who was a great mentor of mine. Did that for a few years. And then David Clark took me out of Travelex over to Cambridge. And I was sort of a senior BDM there, external sales guy. And traveling from meeting to meeting, they were very much focused on face-to-face sales rather than the phone brokerage that had gone before. And then from there, I took the plunge and tried my own thing. I launched a joint venture with the Sable Group. Sable International was effectively their corporate desk, but it was a JV between myself and Sable. Reg Bamford there was a great mentor. I owe an awful lot to him for taking a punt and supporting me through that journey. Shout out to Reg. He's actually a 5, maybe even 6 times world champion at croquet. Don't
see that very often, do you? Yeah.
Well, he always used to say, if you want to be the best at a sport, choose one that nobody plays. And then from there, when we sort of parted company, we had actually started with Currency Transfer. The relationship had already started. Dan and Stevan, who are the co-founders at Currency Transfer, wanted, basically at launch, the model was built on the Currency Cloud API. Yeah. And I was a Currency Cloud white label way back in the day before it got cool. I went to see them and explain that, I was leaving Sable and the relationship would be handed over. And Dan basically took me for a beer straight away in Covent Garden. And effectively pitched me the job. He said, look, I'm very good at marketing. I'm the CEO. We've got Stevan, who's very good at tech. He's a CTO. We've kind of got a bit of a hole in the business for sales and operations. Yeah. And we need a safe pair of hands. And there they are.
Are they insured?
Sadly not, no. I was a music scholar at school, so insurance was something discussed at family level. But
it's not like Beyonce, or was it Mariah Carey's legs, was it? That was insured for like 7 million back in the day? Yeah.
So Currency Transfer, we've been, at the coalface for about 8 years now, and it's going great guns, really.
Because Currency Transfer is a very interesting brand, aren't they? Because they're more like a compare the market, I would say. You've got so many different lines and products that you could use. It doesn't like that.
Popular misconception. No, and we're kind of a victim of our own marketing there. And again, a nod to Dan in the early stages. It was very easy to understand a comparison model, and that's what it was at launch. It was like the client would come in and we would put it open to aggressive price competition to ensure best price guarantee. And again, where a lot of the client acquisition was marketing led, the guys are phenomenal marketeers, and SEO generated an awful lot of leads that came through. Yeah. So it was a very neat story and a very easy one to understand. We didn't make any money doing that though, because the brokers that we were plugged into, and myself included back in the Sable day, were the age-old price point one,
Yeah.
get the relationship, edge them out over time, and get on that merry-go-round. And so it didn't really work. And so within about 6 or 9 months, we pivoted. And pivot being the startup word for failure, we changed the business model entirely, where what we've got now, what we represent, is a payments network, right?
Yeah.
And the mandate that we put to our clients is that every single transaction will be put in front of a best-in-class provider. And then within the currency transfer ecosystem, obviously best price execution is part of the process. But it's not purely price. We absolutely don't sell on price. And the value that we provide to the clients far exceeds just price alone. And,
Yeah.
what do they say? If you sell on price, you die on price, and ultimately there's no real longevity in that. But yeah, so the client value that we fulfill is much deeper. And again, that's also moved with our transition away from being a private client dominated revenue model to one of much more the SME and the business clients. And yeah, if you can service a private client well enough, that ports over very neatly, in my view, to servicing a business, because it's so much is still personal relationship. If you're dealing with Ethel down the road who's chipping her life savings over to a Spanish villa, the same level of detail, care and attention, if applied to a finance director, is important. It's that personal relationship. The fact that he represents the entity behind him largely is irrelevant. The overall demands that he brings to the relationship are one of care, attention and financial relevance, I suppose. And putting the right service, the right partner and the right payment solution in front of him is all part of the curated solution that we put together. And we've got a lot of different endpoints to build that through. So I think very proudly we do provide a genuinely tailored solution. You see every website out there, a tailored solution, price and service. It's like, sit down.
And they're all just selling spot and forwards at the same rates, and then creeping them up,
Exactly, and part of the reason why we're here, of course, is that we are building out a brand new sales team. We've got some very interesting sales talent heading our way, and part of that process is a rebrand. Currency transfer, as a lot of smilers and dialers will recognise, if you're pitching with anything to do with FX or currency in your company name, it's an immediate hang-up, or it's another barrier that you need to overcome in that grueling 150 calls.
You're allowing your customers to assume, I suppose, just on the brand, on what you do, exactly like I just did earlier, compare the market. I'm just reading what I've read online,
Noted.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we the kind of the corporate effort is being rebranded into Plexus, which is kind of an integrated network which sits very comfortably with what we're actually taking to market, while being all mysterious and not clearly currency related. Because again, with the way that the market is moving, a few years ago, it was a trendy flow to move away. We're not FX, we're payments. It's like, cool story. Yeah, that's the regulated bit of what you do, but it's always been the case. And, apart from Alpha and their success story when they were still unregulated, everybody is a payments company first. The fact that you do FX is, largely irrelevant. But, you've got the wide boy city lot who like being FX broker, so they've got it on their business card for when they go to or whatever. But,
I don't know if that's still open, is it?
It's the ego play.
I don't know, cut the brands though. we don't want to get in trouble here.
I don't think they exist.